No, so the IPO bombed. It was at 100 rupees, it opened at 80. It failed miserably and we lost money, we didn't pay dividends for 2 years.
Right.
We had no avenue of resources.
What do you do then?
No, then I went to the Chairman of Unit Trust of India and he said, are you crazy? This is never going to work, this concept. People borrow, not pay you.
But you built a $160 billion company where the IPO failed. What was your frame of mind then?
I've never said this in public.
Every Indian dreams of buying a house. But without HDFC, that dream would never become a reality. Today, we have the man who built one of India's largest financial institutions from the ground up, the Chairman of HDFC, Mr. Deepak Parekh.
Real estate is for your self-investment, not for speculation. When you take it for speculation, you start creating bubbles. There are scores of projects across the country which are half-built, incomplete. The legal system is there, but the efficacy is not there. So, you may be stuck.
Did having such a strong ethical backbone ever cost you business?
There's no softer pillow to sleep on, to put your head on, than a clear conscience. It takes 20 years to build a reputation, but 5 minutes to ruin it. If you are aware of that fact, you will act differently. Once even the President of India called me up.
And what did the President say? Let's be honest for a second. The secret sauce isn't really for everyone. It's for people who want to grow continuously to achieve their potential. So if that's you, maybe you should subscribe. The first question I have for you, which is probably the most important one, is what do I call you? Uncle, Sir, or Mr. Parekh?
How many years I've known you? What's your age?
I don't want to say my age.
I've known you since then.
Yes.
So you have to call me Deepak.
Okay, I thought because you've known me since then, I should call you something else.
No.
Deepak, you have built a $157 billion company, but you still call yourself a salaried entrepreneur. Can you just explain what that means?
So I joined 1977, so it is 50 odd years back as a salaried employee at 2,500 rupees a salary. I took a drop from my previous job, which was a multinational bank, and I joined. Now, salaried entrepreneur is that you have to build the company as if it 100% belongs to you. So whatever expenses are incurred anywhere in the country, you have to keep a tab, you have to hire the right people, you have to grow the company, you have to grow the company ethically. Integrity should be the key part of it. And for the first 30, 35, 40 years, we just worked on a salary and a small bonus. In the last 10 years of my life, the ESOP scheme came into picture where now SEBI and the regulators allowed companies to give shares. The board decided, the remuneration committee decided how many shares you should get. And we got shares at market price. So only if the company does well, you make some gain. And fortunately for us, the company has done very well. So the last 10 years, all of us, and we gave stock options to even the peons, even the drivers. So we gave it to everyone because we were a small organization, we could afford to do it. So everyone built their nest. And I know most of my drivers and clerical staff all own homes. Because from the ESOPs you buy, first thing is you buy a home.
Got it.
So
with a loan from HDFC.
Yeah. And a staff loan is at 4%.
Oh my God.
So you sold your shares as your down payment and you borrowed at 4%. You got more ESOPs as you went along.
Just worth getting a job in HDFC to get a 4% loan. Many people think that you own HDFC because your name is so synonymous with it. But you own less than 0.1%, like you're saying. Today, everyone associates success with, wealth, stock options. How do you explain that the impact that one can have and the wealth that you can create is not only about ownership?
No, it is how you are made of. I could have argued with my board to give me a much larger portion of ESOPs. But I decided, and I recommended to the board, that ESOP should be given to each and every employee of the organization. Otherwise, I could have got a larger portion and I could have ended up by having 5-7% of the company. But I gave my senior colleagues 5-10% lower than mine, not too much. And the difference was very minimal between our senior executives and me. And so these were my own thoughts that everyone should benefit. If the company does well, everyone should benefit. You should share with your senior team at least similar kind of ESOPs.
To incentivize them and
Incentivize them. And so attrition rate was 2%. And some people told us that attrition rate should be higher for companies to be more successful. There's change of thinking. There is new blood in the company. But we felt attrition low rate helped us.
Oh, that's a very important point. The biggest problem that everybody has when they're starting something new is attrition rate, because just as you're getting going, half the people keep leaving. Churn is a big problem. So in your case, by oversharing, one would say, or being very committed to sharing, you
get their get them incentivized to work. You get the buy-in.
Like you said, you had a cushy job at Chase Manhattan Bank, and you took a 50% pay cut to join what was a startup. I think you joined just as it was starting.
It was a startup. It was a startup when startups were never heard of.
Yes. Now everybody knows what
a startup is.
So actually your story is very similar to millions of Indians, because millions of Indians are, have a job, whether it's cushy or not, but they're getting a salary every month, but they dream of joining some business or startup or something like that. So I just wanted to, to understand from you, what was your frame of mind then when you quit this and you joined the startup, and what were people thinking at the time?
No, first of all, my wife thought I was crazy. Why take a drop in salary when you have young kids on the way, kids on the way, way, and take a drop? But I had confidence that something like this would work, because having lived and studied in London and New York, where every street corner, as you know, there is a building society in London. And in New York, every street corner has a savings and loan association, which are nothing but housing finance companies in different language. And I was wondering that if they survive and they do so well, then why can't we have nothing? Here, the method of buying a house was you work all your life, you retire, with the retirement benefit you buy a house. And that's what my father did. And that's the house I still have. And most people on salary did that, because you didn't have any institutional setup to borrow money. Neither did you have that large amount of capital from your savings from your salary. So it was a post-retirement acquisition. Now our average age is mid-30s.
Wow.
You get a job, work for 5 years, you save a little, put down payment, and you borrow.
So it was HDFC was like a transformational moment in India.
For the housing sector, for the youth, for the dream to own a house.
Got it. And how many people were in HDFC when you joined?
5 or 6.
Right.
Yeah, very early days.
It was a real startup. Do you have some interesting stories from the early days?
No. Stories was that, for instance, when we needed money, so we had to do an IPO as soon as possible. I went to Unit Trust was the big daddy that time who would take shares. I went to the Chairman of Unit Trust of India, and he said, "Are you crazy? Am I going to put money? I have a fiduciary responsibility. I'm managing people's money. This is never going to work, this concept. People borrow, not pay you.
Right.
I cannot be a shareholder. I cannot subscribe at the initial IPO." Incidentally, 7, 8, 10 years later, UTI was the largest shareholder of HDFC, but they did not subscribe at the time when we wanted them.
So then what happened to the IPO?
No, so the IPO bombed.
The IPO bombed.
It was at 100 rupees. It opened at 80.
Wow.
So those days we had underwriters. All the DSP and Nimesh Company and all the brokers underwrote the issue, so it went in their neck.
Got it.
They had to buy it at 80 and meet the difference.
Right. So the IPO, HDFC's IPO...
Failed.
Wow.
in 1978 or 79
Wow.
it was. It failed miserably.
Got it. Because today everyone looks at unicorns. Every day there's an IPO now.
Yeah.
What would you say is a lesson to people who think of an IPO as the zenith of their career on some level? For many entrepreneurs, that's the zenith. I've IPO'd. I'm a public listed company.
Absolutely.
But you built a $160 billion company where the IPO failed. What would you say to those people?
No, so to them you have to say, you have to prove yourself. You have to see that there is enough earnings in the company. You have to show that you can return the money. You can show that there is growth. And if you hold the stock, it will increase over time. You need patience. And so you have to have that confidence. And we were confident that over time, we lost money, we didn't pay dividends for 2 years.
Right.
And people came in hordes to borrow money.
Right.
We had no avenue of resources.
Right.
And the World Bank had given us some money, but it was linked to how much you borrow domestically. You borrow 1 rupee domestically, we'll release 1 from
Got it.
Washington. So it was something like that. And we had to raise money here, which was very difficult in the early days. And in between, after 3-4 years, we got so many and inundated with applications that I remember having called our advertising agency and say, please prepare some ads that we are overwhelmed by your response.
Right.
We will not take any more applications. Please bear with us because we have a massive backlog. Backlog was there, but that was not the reason. Money was not there.
Right.
So we used to get hundreds of applications and we had to get money till the banking sector realized that we are a trustworthy organization and banks started giving money and our bonds started trading. We could issue bonds.
Got it.
And subsequently, when you succeed, Mukul, it's so easy to raise money.
Then everyone comes.
Yeah, everyone wants to lend. When we merged with the bank, we had to borrow a lot of money because of the bank needs SLR and CRR. We got 20,000 from one organization, EPFO, which is the government.
20,000 crores.
Huh?
20,000 crores, right.
No, 10,000 crores from 2, 3, 4 organizations.
Got it.
SBI Life, EPFO, LIC. One check of 10,000.
And you were the first housing finance company in India. So that's so interesting, for people to understand, because today in this tech obsessed world, everything is about pioneering, breaking, disruption. But that was such a big disruption. You disrupted the way people think in India because, like you said, you only can get a house after you retire. And now the median age has come down from 65
from
to
60,
35 or whatever.
35, yeah.
When you joined HDFC, your uncle, the legendary H.D. Parekh, who built ICICI
Right.
and then founded HDFC, told you to join, I guess. What was he like and what was your relationship with him?
I had a very close relationship with him because his wife died at a very young age, early age, and he had no children. So my sister and he sort of were very fond of us.
I see.
And I used to go and spend the night there with him and then go home in the morning when I was working. My sister used to stay there afterwards in his later years. So he asked me, and I was in 2 minds because Chase Manhattan had transferred me to Saudi Arabia at that time at 4 times the salary because that's the first oil boom where Americans were not welcomed in Saudi. And Saudi had a Chase Saudi Bank. So they wanted Indians and Asians to go there. So I was transferred there and I didn't know Saudi, but I'd heard horrendous things about it. Conservative life. Those days, alcohol was important to you. Said, my God, there's no alcohol there. Who wants to go?
Yes.
So I was in 2 minds, and then my uncle persuaded me. And I had trust in him, and he was overseeing it. But he had only 10,000 rupees worth of shares.
Right.
Those days were 100 shares of 100 rupees each. Or 1,000 shares of 100 rupees each. No, 100 shares of 100.
Right.
Which in his will he gave it to me. 100 shares. Only that he had.
So he built it
He
out
built
of
it
pure
out
goodwill.
of pure goodwill. And as he was chairman of ICICI for so many years, we got the initial promoters' money, kind of, from multinationals, from the Tata Group, and from Mahindra Group, and from the corporate sector.
Right. So they all pitched in to help.
They pitched in 5%, 2%, 1%.
Got it. Many people see a big difference between career executives and founders. What would you say is the biggest myth that one bunch of people, which is founders, have about career executives and vice versa?
See, founders have to behave in a normal way. If they're high-handed, that I am owning the company, people won't work for them and it won't work. Fine, you started the company, you have put in your initial risk capital, you have to treat people differently. You can't be arrogant and say, it's my money, it's my company. It's my way or highway. That kind of thing, that attitude doesn't work. And quite a few Indian entrepreneurs had that.
Right.
Had that attitude. However, over time, things have changed. People have realized, even the big entrepreneurs realize that unless you have talent, unless you have people, you cannot grow, you are not a one-man show. You need a team, and the team has to be built.
So let's move on to India's favorite debate, which is real estate. You have probably given more loans than anyone in the world. I think it was 10 million
10
is the
million,
number,
yeah.
which is an insane number. In India especially, I think for Indian families, buying a house is seen as proof of success, proof of stability. It's like a zenith in their lives.
Yeah.
It's something that they want, they think about for their whole life. They're striving to that. Do you think that belief still holds true today?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Housing is so critical that, as I always say, a house is built with walls and beams, but a home is made with love and dreams.
Wow.
Now a house for a young person, safety, security. You own part of the earth, which no one can take it away from you. Some youngsters say that in this planet, we own a part of the planet which belongs to us and no one else. No one else can touch it. They are so proud that we own part of this earth. And no one can throw us out. Our families can live and flourish there. So it's a security blanket. It's a safety security. So it is an asset which a family dreams, aspires to own.
Got it.
And even if you are rich and have lots of money, you still want a bigger house, but you still want a home. You're not happy to stay in a rented house.
They're talking about homes and houses. Last few years has seen a massive increase in prices all over India,
Yeah.
and there's a strong belief that it's going to keep running. What would you say about this?
No, I don't think it'll keep running. It is plateauing. Last year, if you see, house prices went up 3%, which was like the inflation number. It didn't go up significantly.
3%.
3%. See, I want to distinguish that in real estate, it still contributes less than 10% of our GDP. Under 10%. In 2047, it'll be about 14, 15%.
Got it.
So we don't have to worry that there's a bubble and all. In China, real estate which collapsed is more than 30% of the GDP. Real estate contributed to more than a third of the GDP.
Crazy.
And so they built so many houses. Even now they say there are 3 million homes unoccupied.
Yes.
And the richest man in Asia, one Mr. Yan, Y-A-N, who built this company Evergrande in China, it collapsed. And it collapsed when it's bankrupt. He's bankrupt himself, from the richest to the lowest, because it's a bubble. Housing always has bubble, and you have to be careful. The governments have to be careful to act swiftly if they think there is a bubble. Bubble is when prices keep going up.
And the bubble is also, I guess, because of the Is that because of the amount of time it takes? I'm a builder, I see the market today, I start planning today. By the time I come in is 5 years later, things have changed and vice versa.
That's how.
The time.
And the bubble means the price keeps going up, so everyone invests. Even real estate is for your self-investment, not for speculation. When you take it for speculation, you start creating bubbles.
Talking about homes and home loans, like we said, you're the king of housing loans. So millions of Indians every year go through this discussion from all levels. It's one of the most important decisions of their life, along with getting married. The housing. What do I buy a house? Where do I get it from?
It's the most expensive and important decision of any family.
Exactly. Can you give us some points to understand how do I know if a builder is reliable or not?
This is the most important decision a family who's planning to buy a house should take. Can you depend on the developer? There are scores of projects across the country which are half-built, incomplete. 20 years. The legal system is there, but the efficacy is not there for quick disbursement, for quick disposal of cases.
Yep.
So you may be stuck. So you have to be very careful whom you pay your money to. You have to do all checks and balances. Therefore, I tell most people that it is better either to go to a developer who's well-known, or if the developer is not that well-known, buy it from him on completion. See what you are getting. Because as I said, it is always delayed, possession is delayed. And the price nowadays, you're paying interest to the builder if you pay later. But you're not borrowing, so you're not paying money to the banker. See the rating of the developer, and CRISIL and all gives you that.
For all developers?
Not for all, most of the larger developers.
So if your developer doesn't have a rating, better not to...
Yeah, but rating is better. But now in India, the better thing is RERA.
Right.
Real Estate Regulatory Act. Now most states have it. So you have to see whether the project is registered under RERA, is approved under RERA. Because if he flouts the RERA regulations, he gets into trouble. So this is an added security for an individual to see that, check with a bank whether they have given loans on that project. See whether all the RERA applications are normal. Go on the net and see that has the builder. Because the builder has to give progress reports on his
see
website.
Those reports.
You can see those reports.
For that project.
So things have become much simpler.
So do a lot of research.
Yeah, do a lot of research before you take that big step. It's the biggest step in your life. So be careful.
A lot of builders give discounts on under construction projects.
Yeah.
So there's always this debate that, a lot of people have this view that I don't want to buy it when it's ready because it's maxed out. You have this mental thing, max finished. The price has reached the peak. If I buy it 1 year before, 2 years before, early stage, even with a good builder, I'm going to get a massive discount. 20%. People think all those things because it's kind of marketed like that. What would your thoughts be?
If you buy at the construction stage, he will want the buyer to pay every quarter. So he'll have to take a loan. So he's paying interest. If he buys at the end, then he knows what is the cost and he can take a loan. He saves paying interest for 2 years.
The builder?
No, the individual saves because he's not borrowed money.
Right.
He borrows only when the building is complete.
All right.
So he pays a little more to the builder, but he saves his interest cost.
And how do delays affect this?
Delay affects it if you borrowed money, you have to keep paying your EMI and not got possession of the house.
And you have to always plan for delay.
Because, you are moving from some place to another place. So you have to give up the rented space and save that rent. So if the builder takes longer time, you have to continue paying rent and EMI. It's a double whammy.
And you think that
So it is safer, according to me, if it's 95% complete to buy it at that stage, or go to a well-known developer. I don't want to name, but there are a dozen well-known developers.
Yes. And
who've been around for the last 30, 40 years.
Right. And, this perceived discount is a very big thing in people's heads.
Yeah.
I just want to understand that on a better level, because on one level you're saying, I'm getting 15% off, but like you said, because you have to take a loan before, along with the delay in the project, that number
Matches up. Yeah.
Does it match
Well,
up?
it matches up because you're taking a big loan, you have to pay interest from day one.
So really look at that discount very carefully.
See, in times of boom, prices went up too fast. It was logical for people to book.
Because they said, हाँ चलो.
Nowadays, unfortunately, luxury houses are only built. Our problem of our country is affordable homes no one is building.
Yes.
It's a big issue. It's a policy issue. We have to get, because the massive demand is again the lower cost, affordable homes. So, if you're buying a luxurious house, then whether you borrow or don't borrow, pay now, pay later, you're paying for your money. If you're paying from your own resources, you may be earning 6%. There you may save. But with some saturation of real estate and with so many redevelopment projects coming, the supply is increasing many times. If the supply is increasing, there will be a time when price is stagnant and won't go up as we've seen in the last 10 years. I don't see a flat 1 lakh a square foot becoming 2 lakhs in 5 years. I don't see that.
So even when I'm buying it for my personal use, don't factor in this appreciation picture that everyone has.
Yeah.
Factor in your need.
Your need is more
and
important.
the cost at what it is, and say it's going to be the same, little upside, but don't get into the upside.
Correct.
You have built not one, but two bulletproof brands, HDFC and your personal brand. Let's talk about them. Ethics, you've always said ethics means never doing anything you'll be ashamed of.
You should never be ashamed of if your today's decision becomes public the next day.
Right.
And there's no softer pillow to sleep on, to put your head on, than a clear conscience.
And did having such a strong ethical backbone ever cost you business in the short term or long term?
No, I don't think so.
No, huh?
No.
Great. That's amazing. Because, saying no under pressure, your company is giving loans to everybody, powerful people, non-powerful people. Saying no under pressure is very hard. So could you tell us about the toughest no that you had to tell, someone, politician or a friend or...
Lots of senior bureaucrats or politicians have called that I'm sending someone, give a loan, and there's no income or there's no adequacy of income. People want a much larger loan, but they're showing this small income. So there's no way they can service the loan. So we had to say no. And they don't like it. And, I'm involved with a school. And I have upset many people that, it's a thankless job because the school has a limited number of seats.
Admission in
school, in junior KG for a 4-year-old kid.
Right.
Once even the President of India called me up and I knew the President well.
Right.
And he says, I'm sending you one case, please help in admission. It was middle of the year. And the school I'm associated with, we only take children the beginning of the term. Right. Otherwise, it's a process, every day someone comes. And people leave at the end to go to other schools or go abroad or whatever. So I had to tell no to the President. But very politely, I said, my hands are tied. I'm one trustee out of many. But I can't help you, but I'm happy to help you in the beginning of the term.
And what did the President say?
Well, he was a very decent gentleman and I knew him well, so he understood.
So in all these
times... So
there's
many cases like that.
When you said no, has it ever damaged a relationship?
I don't think so, but I say it politely, I say it very carefully, I say it's a policy.
Got it. Do you have a story where you had to personally intervene to stop a foreclosure?
I would go for the foreclosure, even if I know the person, because I owe it to the institution. And many friends had taken loans, and if they could not pay, we took legal action.
Right.
We had to take legal action.
Even with friends?
Even with friends. Because you borrowed from our organization, not from me personally.
Let's just pause for a moment. Now, some people like quick answers. Well, some people like to think deeply. If you're in the second group, the secret sauce is made for you. So please hit subscribe. When you started 5 decades ago, in the 70s, there was a massive cash component to buying houses, like almost 50%.
It's a big
probably.
issue.
How did you manage that with your ethics?
So we had to recognize that a person who buys a house will have to pay cash because it was common with practically every builder. So we had to develop a scheme because if the agreement value is 50 and the cost is 80, we can give 70% of the agreement value. Then we can only give him 35 out of 100. It didn't make sense for him.
Got it.
He would never be able to buy the house.
And he didn't have that cash. He was
He didn't
a
have the
salaried
cash,
person.
he didn't have the money. So we had to take a practical view and we said we will send our technical experts. And we had technical experts, real estate engineers, and people who evaluate price value. We'll send our experts to the site and we will give a value of that property, irrespective of the agreement value. So if our value of that property was 90, we would give him 70 of 90. So it would save, although the agreement was lower.
Yes.
So
sometimes you gave a loan higher than the agreement value also?
it was difficult. We had to save for something else, for furnishings or something. But normally, we went up to even 95% of the agreement value.
Got it.
Agreement value, I know some cases we've given 100%.
Wow.
Because he has to take out money from the bank.
Yes.
To make cash payment to the developer.
Right.
So it was difficult. Fortunately, things have changed. And now you can get anywhere in the country, apartments, flats, homes, without cash payment.
Right. That's a fantastic example of, I would say, a customer-centric organization, but yet maintaining...
Otherwise, we were not serving the purpose.
So you had a whole team of people all over India.
All branch, every branch.
So anywhere I wanted to buy a flat.
Yeah, we would send them to the...
You would be able to assess the real value of the flat.
Yeah.
Not just the check.
Because you see, we are mainly in urban areas. And in urban areas, land is the most important component or is the most expensive component. You know, in South Bombay, land would be 80-85% of the value.
Right.
And the construction cost and the profit margin and all would be 15%. So it shows the land value.
Really? Even today?
Even today. Yeah.
Wow. Land is 85%.
Land, yeah. In some parts, like in South Bombay.
In the expensive areas.
Expensive areas.
Wow. That's interesting. So you really are paying for the land.
Yeah, you're paying for the land. So we value the land.
Got it. HDFC is known for being very human at its core because you're giving loans, you're so customer centric, you're dealing with people, such an emotional situation that you're helping them with. How did you create this empathy machine in this organization?
So the frontline staff were the most important because they would meet the customer first. And the frontline staff who appraises the case, who analyzes and takes the file and application form, we had to keep training them at all India level that you will hear sob stories from everyone who walks into your office. It's a big issue buying a flat. They're harassed because they don't have the money and they're desperate to get a loan.
There's always a shortfall somewhere.
And you have to be sympathetic to them. Yet firm on what we can give because we don't want to have a book of NPAs.
That's so interesting. So basically, they're almost like therapists.
Yeah, exactly.
You train thousands of therapists.
I'm telling you, I have sat in the front office for just experience in the early days.
Right.
I used to meet customers.
Right.
And every story you feel sad.
Right.
You know, when we merged with the bank 2 years ago, we were doing 80,000 loans a month.
Right.
80,000 individual families.
Right. Amazing. So you have to train. I'd like to just understand that a little more because, you have so many B2C companies that are growing in India and being customer centric is so important, but it's so hard. Firstly, being employee centric, treating them as partners in the business, and then pushing that out onto the customer. Just would love to hear more about how did you do that?
I used to say, it's a little boastful, hire ordinary people, make them do extraordinary work.
Right.
And we didn't have very highly educated people. This was the policy of foreign banks when they entered India. When I joined Grindlays in 1970, there was not one chartered accountant in Grindlays.
Right.
They used to take smart BComs,
Oh.
and train them and make them grow.
So the foreign banks knew this already.
Foreign banks, Indian banks, all.
Don't get over technical.
Yeah. Now, of course, things have changed drastically.
And why is that?
No, because it was cheaper to get a smart BCom or a smart BA.
Oh, so it was a money thing.
It was a money thing.
And not a practical angle. I see. And I guess, even on the ground level, you need more ordinary kind of
Ordinary
people.
kind
Because
of
if I'm some
people,
high-flying person,
No,
I won't
he
connect with
work,
you.
Yeah.
Because it's so interesting. It's like I want to join a HDFC, which is a finance corporation. I wouldn't think that I have to suddenly become a therapist
Yeah.
and sit in here. Like, I mean, when I say therapist, I mean be very emotionally open to understand people's problems and yet be firm. Quite fantastic.
And we were acting very quickly because we had a hub and spoke-ish organization. There were lots of hubs
Right.
where the authority was given to sanction the loan, because people are buying a house which is long term, but the mentality or the attitude of the people is, when will I know when I'm getting a loan?
Right.
So we couldn't take time. We had to be quick.
I see.
Turnaround time.
How long?
2 weeks, 10 days, 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
That time. So we had to give authority to various levels of branches. So we had a hub and spoke, where we had hubs where the spokes would send the files and the application. A group of people will look at it and sanction. So everything didn't come to the head office.
Got it. Can you tell us one story of a borrower that never left you?
So, I want to tell the story about Narayana Murthy, and he said it many times in his speeches, in his book,
Right.
that when he was young, much before Infosys started, he got a job in Bombay with Patni Computers. And he came to Bombay, he had his appointment letter, and he had wife next to him, and he had no place to stay. So someone somewhere told him, go to HDFC. So he came one day to HDFC without knowing anyone, without just hearing about it. And as he was entering, his wife caught him and said, say a prayer. We are going nowhere. Where will we live? We have no place to live. This is our first job. And say a prayer. So she stopped him and they said a prayer. And they went into Raman House at Church Gate. And they met someone and they applied. In 10 days, they got their 70,000 rupee loan.
Right.
And they bought their first house with that.
70,000 rupees.
70,000.
Right.
Because he had a salary from Patni.
Got it.
And he was so thrilled that he started talking about it. And then 15 years later, when Infosys was growing, he came, I'm in Bombay, I want to see you. I called him home on Sunday. He says, I'm so impressed with the service I got and the processing. And Infosys is a processing unit. So come and join our board.
Right.
And, but very kindly he says, but we have 6 meetings and 2-day meetings and all that. And we like directors to come. And that time HDFC was growing.
Yes.
I thought in my mind that I won't be able to manage to do this. So I said, thank you, but I won't be able to join. Then I said, I won't be fit. I'm a BCom CA and not a BTech.
If someone starting their career today wanted to create their own code of conduct, where should they begin?
Code of conduct.
Their personal code of conduct.
It should be integrity, transparency, honesty. Should be not negotiable. They should make up their mind that if we want to succeed, we can succeed, but we have to have that integrity and accountability.
And transparency.
And transparency.
And when you say transparency?
Transparency means don't hide something and do something.
Got it.
Be open about it.
And what if someone else is doing something? What do you do then?
No, then if he's working for you, you have to stop it. You have to stop it.
what are the top qualities that you look for in a leader in your organization or in a,
See, I had a very different style of recruiting. I've been on various government committees for recruiting chairmen of banks and CEOs of public sector banks, where each person is asked 1 hour. All the HR firms that are there with big names and all, they make you do a psychology test before
Yes.
entrance. They make you fill up a big form, and
now it's very common in any startup, even in the ones that I've invested in, they have like a 10-part process
yeah,
with psychological tests, behavioral tests,
behavior
many,
tests.
many,
Some
many,
can
many.
give case studies.
Yeah, for sure.
All that. I personally have recruited so many people just on gut, on intuition. And I don't think I've gone wrong. Maybe in 1 or 2 cases I may have gone
You've
wrong.
definitely
but
not gone
95%, I think I have. Because you develop a gut, you develop a intuition. And, like in one of our companies, we had interviewed 5-7 people and we had shortlisted one whom we liked, and we had kept a number 2. After giving the letter to the person we chose, it's a big company or one of HDFC's subsidiaries. He took the letter and after 2 weeks he says, I can't join. Because his employer must have given him more. I was reluctant, but we hired the number 2 guy. He's turned out to be phenomenal. I'm glad I didn't get that first one. It's a blessing in disguise, I feel. So, this is the luck. You need a lot of luck. You need intuition. Luck is also as
So many people who I've spoken to have told me that you are an amazing mentor. Can you tell me about your mentors?
I've had 2 mentors whom I considered mentors.
Right.
One was, of course, HT Parekh, who persuaded me to join.
Right.
He never interfered. He never argued or interfered. He let me go on and build the company. And the other person is Keshub Mahindra. Keshub was our vice chairman in HDFC, and HT Parekh was the chairman when I joined. I had to be interviewed by Keshub. So I went to Keshub's office and he said, why join this startup? Come and join us. Then he was vice chairman, and obviously when the chairman goes, the vice chairman takes. But he insisted that I should chair it. And he continued as vice chairman. But seeing him, how he worked, how he handled people, what he talked in board meetings, and I got to know him quite well, going every quarter to his office and showing him our results. And he was a vice chairman for many years.
You are one of the most humble people I've met. I've known you for a long time, like you've said. We won't say how long. You've had success since the early days, honestly, because HDFC, after your little failed IPO, small hiccup, you've taken off. So you've had success for 40 years, basically. Massive.
We built all the companies under it.
So
the
many
bank,
companies.
the insurance,
HDFC
the asset
Bank,
management.
insurance,
And each one is doing excellently.
Capital.
Yeah.
You've built several multi-billion dollar subsidiaries. So how have you managed to stay humble? Because we both have met a lot of people who've done infinitely less than you, but are much more, not at all humble. So how I want to understand that from you.
I think it's the nature of a person. It's really in a nature. I don't want to go and thump my chest, I've done this or something like that. I don't do that.
But you're right, and I knew you would say this, obviously, which is fabulous and lucky for you or unlucky, whatever. But still, when you achieve things go to your head, no? When something big happens, when you raise $1 billion, blah, blah. When your merger happens, then you get a 160 billion behemoth. Various things have happened.
When you retire, you come down to basement.
But no, I'm talking about before retiring. Even during your heady days of success, when you were going everywhere, meeting the finance minister, meeting heads of state all over the world, you were still everyone says that you were a very down-to-earth and humble person. So it's human nature to feel I am hot shit. Everybody will be telling you, Deepak bhai, Deepak bhai.
But I really learned this from what Keshub had achieved, what HT Parekh had achieved. And I've seen them on their heydays. And the way they talked with me, though I was a kid, and the way I learned that from them, how to be simple, how to be kind, how to be compassionate.
Was there a moment in your professional life when you were very sure about some action that you wanted to take, but everyone disagreed with you?
No, everyone didn't disagree. Um,
That you were saying that the merger also many people didn't want to do it, the board didn't want to do it.
no, I think the board felt we are doing very well. Why do you want to merge? And earlier the bank people also didn't want it. And it's disruption of people and all. Both are doing well, let's continue. But the regulators were pushing us. Regulators were insisting on more and more bank-like, putting more and more bank-like restrictions because we were a non-bank finance company. Reserve Bank of India had classified NBFC into three categories: large NBFC, middle level NBFC, and small NBFC. 50,000 crores and above is large NBFC. We were that time 5 lakh crores. So we were the largest NBFC. And so bank like regulations were imposed on us.
Got it.
And to raise that kind of money to fund 80,000 home loans without having a bank branch and deposits, savings deposits and current account, which is zero cost. So we needed a bank-like structure. So we had a bank, so we wanted to merge with the bank. And some board members said we are doing well. They didn't understand what problems we were having in day to day. And it made more sense because we were regulated like a bank without having authority of taking current accounts and savings account, which brings your cost of funds down.
Got it.
RBI was putting more and more restrictions on us, forcing us to become a bank because we have become too big.
So you had that a mixed situation. What would you say is your biggest regret professionally?
It's not a regret. It's maybe an opportunity I may have lost. But at various stages, I was offered government positions, which I didn't have the courage to take that time.
Like RBI.
Public sector banks chairman.
I see. You would have wanted to do that.
I don't have a regret, but
You think about it.
Yeah,
Like SBI or
yeah.
because you could do so much more, I guess.
The regret was I was called for an interview for being the governor of RBI. I've never said this in public. But the government at that stage preferred a public sector person,
Right.
IAS to a private sector person. So although the finance minister said I was his choice,
Right.
but the prime minister felt a public sector IAS offer
Got it.
person is better.
And you would have accepted that.
I would have accepted that. The Reserve Bank governor is a very prestigious position.
Wow. Got it.
But I didn't get it.
No, you
So
didn't
that's
get
a regret.
Yes. You have seen so many market cycles in real estate, in the stock market, in the whole of India. Can you recall a moment when the market proved you completely wrong and forced you to rethink?
Yeah, the global financial crisis, when it happened, we are quite an insulated economy. We don't depend so much on exports. We don't depend so much. Only import oil is the only commodity. It forms 50-60% of our import bill when oil prices are high. But how the global financial crisis hit India to some extent,
In 2008.
and it was more the mood.
Right.
It was more the mood than companies started faring poorly or something. It was a backlash of what is happening globally.
I guess you realized,
Even the Asian financial crisis did not impact us so much, but the mood changed.
yes.
So people become sober, people don't invest, people wait and watch. So there are these days also we are, in a way, we are interconnected.
Yes. And I guess at that time there was more of a illusion of isolation. Isolation. And you saw through those things that there was at least a sentimental connection more than anything else. What is one personal sacrifice you made that no one knows about?
One of the World Bank presidents whom I knew called me one day. Again, this is years ago. And will you consider becoming CEO of IFC Washington? I've not told this to anyone.
International Finance Corporation.
Corporation, which is a subsidiary of the World Bank in Washington.
Huge company. Yeah.
And because I'd worked with him closely and he'd seen HDFC and all that, again, I said no. I didn't want to uproot myself and go and live in Washington and all. I was past all that. So, which is probably a regret or a missed opportunity or whatever you can say.
Right.
But I don't have any regrets. I don't even think of it because you asked, I have to say that.
Yes. Who has time for regrets? And who has time to look at the past? So looking at the future, if you were 25 in 2025, which industries would you double down on for the next decade?
First of all, I wish I was 25.
I also wish I was 25.
Because India's best times are yet to come and they're around the corner. So if you're 25, you would be part of it and you would witness it. So financial services, where I know a lot about, I know the penetration levels are absolutely low in India compared to other countries, neighboring countries. And I'll give you an example. Consumer credit as a percentage of GDP in India is 40%. China, it is 62%. US, it's 74%.
Got it.
So we have a long way to go. This is consumers borrowing money to buy assets,
Got it.
not homes.
Yes.
This is air conditioners and cars and two-wheelers. Mortgage to GDP in India is 11.5%. Even in countries like Singapore and Malaysia, it's in 40s and 50s.
Oh.
In US, it is over 50. In Scandinavian countries, it is 95. So we have a long, long way to go in mortgages, in homes. Similarly, insurance, both life and non-life, penetration level in India is 2.8%, which is very tiny for a large economy like it. The global average is 9, and we are 2.5. Then only 20% of our households, 20% are investing in the capital markets. Despite the large rush we saw in the last 6 months, more people investing in SIPs. It's a tiny number compared to a large economy. So financial penetration is massive. So I think a job in a financial sector company, the bank or an NBFC that gives loans, the future I think is sky is the limit because we've just scratched the surface. Second is renewables. Whether we like it or not, India needs more energy from renewables. And solar energy is where I think the opportunity is there. Why are we importing all solar panels from China? Why can't someone manufacture them here? Maybe now the relationship with India-China is much better. We can get a collaboration and do something here. The biggest area is automobiles. Last month India sold 400,000, 4 lakh vehicles were sold in 1 month. When I was in HDFC, it's 2 lakhs a year. 2 lakhs a year to 4 lakhs a month. And electric vehicles are the future, whether it's e-scooters, e-commercial vehicles, e-automobiles. And everything to build e-vehicles and batteries. Who's going to make the batteries? What are the raw materials for the batteries? What is the distribution of the batteries going? How is it going to be? Charging station. There's a massive, massive opportunity in that. Then we are the back office of the world. Everyone knows that we are the back office of the world. What about software? Software nation. What about hardware?
Hardware manufacturing.
Hardware manufacturing. So, this is chip manufacturing, fab units. We don't have semiconductors. What I mean is semiconductors. When there was an embargo on China to sell, we were short of chips. And we had to curtail production. A chip is required in a watch, in a television, in everything. Washing machine, every electronic needs computers.
Chips.
Semiconductor.
Got it.
Now we have 3-4 companies that have started tied up with someone and bought land. It requires massive investment, almost $8-10 billion each. But 5 years later, 3-4 years later, when they're complete constructing and start manufacturing, it'll be a big boost to India.
Got it.
That we are not dependent on anyone for these semiconductors. So there are these some areas where I think the future is very good.
And on the other side, what are the blind spots in India's growth story that we should watch out for?
Blind spot is affordable housing, which is close to my heart. Why can't, in the olden days, shipping companies, everyone wanted to buy foreign ships. No one wanted to buy Indian ships. And there are Hindustan Shipyard and Mazgaon Docks, and there are quite a few companies that make ships. Government came out with a rule, if you buy one foreign ship, you have to order one domestic. That's how Mazgaon Dock and all came up.
Right.
Now every developer wants to afford luxury homes, and no one is thinking of building a 400, 500, 600 square feet homes. The demand or the need of the country is there. How can we change policies in the government that encourages affordable? Roti kapda now makan we have to tackle.
Yeah.
But we need some incentivization for people to make affordable homes. Otherwise, why would the developer go and make 400 homes when he can sell 40 homes? It's easier to sell, easier to collect, more profit margin.
If you had to leave behind 3 rules, one for work, one for money, and one for character, what would they be?
It takes 20 years to build a reputation, but 5 minutes to ruin it. If you are aware of that fact, you will act differently. It is absolutely important to have a reputation. Character is built because of reputation. So on your third point, this is my answer.
Third point is the most important point.
Most important. You have to have character.
Right.
On
Money and work.
money, this is not my quote. This is the quote of Warren Buffett. When you invest, never lose money. Rule number 2 rules to remember. First rule is never lose money when you invest. Rule number 2 is never forget rule number 1.
Yeah.
So on investment, you have to be shrewd, do some research, or give it to specialist people like mutual funds, rather than go tip here and a tip
And
there.
futures and options.
Yeah,
holiday people.
future and options.
Specialist. I think that's an important point. There are people who spend
Give
their
it
whole
to
life.
specialists. And today you get unit-linked life insurance companies where your life is also insured and your money is put in equity markets.
Wow. And for work.
If you're in a senior position, you have to be humility, accessible, an open door policy. Your people, anyone can meet you, and no hubris.
And if you're coming up,
No, they say, be kind when you're growing because you will meet the same people when you're going down. So something like that.
yeah. There's a song, a Bob Dylan song also where he says, you know what they say about being nice to the right people on the way up? Sooner or later, you're going to meet them on the way down.
Way down.
And
No, the other thing they say on money is don't buy unnecessary things. Don't buy things that you don't need, or else you'll have to sell soon the things that you need.
So stay prudent, fiscally prudent.
So as to say.
And lastly, now I just wanted to ask you that now that you've retired from full-time work after your amazing career and you're on many boards now, you must be having a little more time. So how are you choosing to spend your time?
See, we have set up a foundation which was earlier doing HDFC CSR, Deepak Parekh Foundation. And we have a corpus there. I've put some money. We've raised money from elsewhere. HDFC has given money when it was around before the merger. And I spend time there at the foundation. It's time to give back. And we are looking at a number of sectors, mainly environment, heat, water, waste management, And that keep me occupied for some time. And I get lots of visitors. Most of my day goes meeting people. And I meet anyone who wants to meet me. And afternoon, I go and play cards with my buddies because it's difficult when you're not full-time in a job
Yes.
to spend your afternoon. You go home, you'll go to sleep, then at night you'll suffer. As it is when you grow old, your sleep reduces.
Yes.
So we play cards, bridge or rummy at very low stakes.
Yes.
But that occupies evening. You can spend time at home watching TV, reading, doing Sudoku. I do a Sudoku every night.
Oh, you do, got it.
Every night, a difficult one,
Right.
a diabolical one.
A diabolical one,
To
right.
keep your mind active.
Right.
Because, you have to keep your mind active to avoid Alzheimer's in old age,
Yes.
dementia in old age.
Yes.
So you have to keep thinking, use your brains. I don't think we use enough of our brain. The capacity of our brains is enormous. I think none of us use that.
They say a really good way to exercise your brain at any point, but especially when you get older, is to learn an instrument.
Learn an instrument.
Like a piano,
Piano.
because it just uses a different
Yeah,
space.
sure, I agree.
You can imagine, it's so hard to, the thought only makes you,
Yeah.
your brain gets scared of the thought. Don't mind, for a minute, you can tell us some of the passion projects that you're doing in the HD Parekh Foundation, like what water waste, what were you doing there?
No, so we are doing some research on water, but one of the projects which I'm very proud of is disability. On disability, when we started, we did a lot. There is an organization called Mitti Cafe, MITI.
Right.
Only disabled people work there. There are about 20 of them across India.
Oh, in Bombay is there one?
Yeah, Bombay at the airport. When you come out of the international airport,
Right.
there is. In Bangalore, it's in the airport.
Right.
And recently I went to Bangalore because the Air Force there has a massive training facilities. 30,000 people come there for training. And we've set up one there. Chief Justice of India saw it somewhere and asked the Mitti Cafe people, we want one in Supreme Court, which we funded.
Got it.
Then the President's house, there is a Mitti Cafe of India. So, that was one. And Jai Vakil School of Blind. We funded them a lot, and in fact, it got the first prize for the handling of blind people.
Amazing.
So, disability is, I'm more, because see, water and waste, we are studying still. For instance, stubble burning in Delhi is a problem. Now,
Apparently, it's all over India actually. Different types,
it's all over.
sugarcane
But
in Maharashtra.
some part of the stubble was treated chemically by a company and then didn't have smoke. It worked, but the farmers are not satisfied. The farmers there in Gurgaon are saying that it spoils the soil. So it spoils our future. Our acreage gets lost. And so they are still not wanting to use some chemicals. IIT Bangalore has an international water center which we have funded. And the task to them is in 7 years, in India, at least in 4 or 5 cities, we need to be able to drink tap water. That is your mandate. How do you do that? As
Drink
we
the
do
tap
water as we do in Europe and US.
Yes, and breathe the air. Sir, Uncle, Mr. Parekh and Deepak. Thank you.
Thank you. It was fun meeting you.
It was fun.
It was fun because it's old memories. I've come to this office, this room, more than 100 times.
Yes. I know. Thank you.